welcome everybody to the Grounded Guidance Podcast. I'm excited to welcome you and our guest today, Greg Kuhn, who is a manifesting coach dedicated to helping you manifest the extraordinary. From achieving optimal health and fitness to attaining abundant wealth, fulfilling relationships, and a thriving career, Greg focuses on empowering you to manifest your greatest desires. As an experienced educator and coach, speaker and podcaster, and author, Greg has been transforming lives since 2013 by teaching individuals how to shift their beliefs and manifest the reality they truly deserve. Greg guides you in communicating with your subconscious mind, enabling you to align your beliefs and manifest your deepest desires. He is the author of 9 books that offer valuable insights into manifesting the life you desire. I'm so excited to welcome you, Greg. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you very much, Karen. Pleasure's all mine.
Yes, I can't wait to dive in. So you're known as the law of attraction science guy, and I'd really love to kind of unpack that. What does that mean? How did you get into this? Let's start there.
Yeah, it's interesting. The law of attraction science guy. I love quantum physics, and that's really where that nickname comes from. Ultimately, Karen, most of my work definitely fits into the law of attraction genre, 100%. And certainly anything within that genre, my work is going to, have a good home. I will say I came to this, however, through quantum physics. I was a history major, and I won't bore you with a lot of academia here, but I was a history major. And my favorite topic historically it always was science, because just real quick, the Western world, modern civilization in the Western world, while it is wonderful, but also has drawbacks. Well, it's all been made possible. It all was made possible as people started applying these new paradigms that arose from Newtonian physics. Now, Newtonian physics is the science of Isaac Newton, things like cause and effect. Mm-hmm. We all encountered those in high school, and we're familiar with them. Those rules helped us invent just about everything that made the modern Western world possible, and mm-hmm. also the paradigms that arose from them. Now, a paradigm is just a fancy word for the reasons we do things the way we do them, right? And a good example of this from Newtonian physics is Sigmund Freud's talk therapy. Now, mm-hmm. One of the paradigms of Newtonian physics is cause and effect, right? I just mentioned that. So while Sigmund Freud isn't noted to have specifically referenced that Newtonian science, he applied that paradigm to create psychotherapy. He said, well, cause and effect, I know to be a real thing. I know to be true. Science has shown us this. And so why don't I help people go back into their past and confront incongruencies and tragedies and traumatic experiences, and it'll have an effect and change their current iteration of themselves, right? And so was born talk therapy. Now, those paradigms that came out of Newtonian physics, they work very well. I mean, they have their limitations, but the paradigms that come from quantum physics are not only more exciting and fantastic. In fact, a lot of quantum physics, when you read about it, talk about it, it sounds like you're talking, it sounds like you're a new age guru sometimes when you're talking about it, because quantum physics tells us things like we are all just different perspectives of the same thing. Me, you, Karen, looking around the room, all these objects that we see, mm-hmm. these are all just different perspectives of the same thing. What does that mean? It means that we are literally we are all energy. And although we're, here in four-dimensional space-time experiencing, tactile sensations of being a consciousness possessing entity here in this four-dimensional space-time, we have not abandoned the energy that we really are. And so it is literally true scientifically to say that I'm looking at myself when I look around, and I'm looking at myself when I look at you, Karen, and vice versa. We also know, scientifically speaking, that every human being manifests their own unique version of reality in every moment. Our consciousness collapses the one field of energy, or sometimes called the quantum field. We could think of it as God. We could think of it as the one consciousness. It is a field of energy. That is us. And we, you know what? A good metaphor for what we are islands in an archipelago. Now, I used to teach geography, so I know the term archipelago. This was a long time ago, but I haven't forgotten, right? And I know when I hear the term archipelago, the first thing I think about is a chain of islands in the Pacific or in the ocean in general. However, that's not really what an archipelago is. An archipelago is actually a gigantic landmass, 99% of which is underwater. Little bits of it break the surface, and those are the islands, right?
Right.
But that's just a little, that
You're
the islands are an archipelago, right?
Yes.
That's us. That's us. So when we know these things now, we know that these things are true. And like I said, it sounds like I could be reading from a law of attraction book or a new age self-help book when I talk about those sorts of things. It is so exciting to me knowing that these things are true, thereby on principle. It is almost inconceivable that we couldn't increase the influence that we have to architect that reality that we're creating in each moment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hard to escape that conclusion.
It really is. Yeah. I agree with you. How do you bridge the gap between, well, that's all fine and good, Greg. I hear what you're saying. How do I put that into motion? What you're saying, right? As a student of law of attraction, yes, I hear what you're saying, but it's not in my physicality yet.
I completely understand, and in fact, Karen, to address that from a larger perspective, if you will, I don't ever write anything or talk about anything or record anything that is contrived or theoretical, in the sense that I only write and talk about things that I do that work for me. And I will say, I have paid dearly for a lot of the knowledge that I have. Because when you talk about, bridging that gap, right? I gotta say, to empathize and with the, everybody listening and watching, because I still feel this way. Most of the people that I wind up working with as a coach are successful people. People who they certainly are down with the law of attraction and manifesting, and that is what they're interested in increasing their authority to do intentionally. They're very successful. They have practices that work, and they have so many parts of their life that are fulfilling. What they run into, and what most people run into, as we move through our adult lives, is we we encounter these glass ceilings in our life. And I call them glass ceilings because I can see what it is that I really
Right.
desire. It's right there on the other side.
Yes.
And a lot of the time I'm putting in, effort to manifest that the way I truly desire, to manifest a version of reality in that part of my life that matches my desires, especially in those, those really hard to reach areas, the big
Yes.
stuff,
Yes.
the parts of our lives that are integral to experiencing fulfillment as a
Right.
human, health, wealth, love, family, career, relationships. These things that, I don't know about you, Karen, I have never when it comes to the big stuff,
Mm-hmm.
when I encounter a glass ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in an important area of my life, I've never been able to successfully pretend like I don't want it. And
Yeah.
I came to my current working understanding of the law of attraction because I wanted to bust through that glass ceiling with wealth.
Mm.
And I took a lot of really uh, great actions. I
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of great things. And it turns out that I set myself and my family up to go over a Niagara Falls of just personal and professional disaster. But I learned
Mm-hmm.
by being, and this was in the early 2000s. I was facing 15 foreclosures. I was facing $1 million of debt. I was facing bankruptcy, and my marriage had dissolved, and I was suddenly a single father of 3 young
Mm-hmm.
boys. And I had about 6 months. My attorney told me, Greg, you've got 6 months left, and all these legal proceedings are going to start to unfold. And I said, well, I've been working my butt off. I've done everything else. I have realtors. I have an attorney. Nothing is working. What do I have to lose? There's got to be a way. I
Mm-hmm.
know that I am manifesting this reality. There has to be a way to do it differently. And you know what? I said, how about if I just meet my subconscious where I really am? How about if I stop trying to manufacture the emotions that match the reality I'm
Right.
desiring, right?
Right.
And really just sit down with how I really feel about this and go from there. I mean, I didn't have anything else to lose. Uh, and so that's what I did. And I baby walked, or, you know what? Think about it like, picture helping a small child
Mm-hmm.
across a crowded street by holding their hand.
Right.
That's what I learned to do with my beliefs, to
Hmm.
meet them where they are right now, and then slowly, reassuringly grow them into alignment with the reality I truly desired to manifest. Well,
So can I stop you right there?
yeah.
Because I'm curious. It sounds like that was a lucky break for you. Only in this sense. Because I
Hmm.
really believe when people work to try to manifest what they desire, they're in the wrong frequency trying to manifest that, right? Everything is energy, and
Hmm.
we're looking at everything as energy. We're and we want to become wealthy, we want to become rich, we want to become thin, we want to become all of these things that we truly desire.
Hmm.
We, from a law of attraction standpoint, we're trying to manifest those from a frequency that is not that frequency. So it sounds like you were really, I mean, that's a pretty powerful reflection to be able to say, I'm going to full stop, reflect on what my feelings are about this or my beliefs around wealth and all these things that were happening to you at the
Hmm.
time, because I believe most people don't work that way. Most people are wondering, why hasn't it happened to me? Why am I not rich yet? Why am I not thin yet? We're not operating from the right frequency to be able to manifest that.
Hmm.
So I'm curious about what was the light bulb moment for you to be able to like peer back at your subconscious beliefs?
Well, no, those are great points to raise, and a great question. Um, Honestly, I had the gift of desperation.
Mm,
There was nothing that I knew to do,
yeah.
no logical course of action that I could possibly see to escape becoming the guy who destroyed his family, at every Thanksgiving and holiday gathering for the rest of my life. And
Right.
I didn't want that so badly, right? I was so desperate to not manifest that reality. Um, that I learned one of the things that I knew going in. Now, this is what I created during this time of desperation grew into a formal process that I write about and teach about.
Hmm.
It's a belief raising process. And one of the things that I was keenly aware of that I wanted to experiment with was that our beliefs are stored in our subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Our subconscious has one job.
Right.
Its job is to keep us alive and safe.
Correct.
Okay. And it's very good at its
It
job.
is.
And if people aren't familiar, the way it does this job is it maintains a very effective low wall security for our
Mm-hmm.
beliefs. It it does not speak word based language. It does not understand logic, and it does not understand any emotions that are too far removed from what's really in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it maintains this very effective low wall security that keeps out the influence of like a sudden whim or a strong urge, or things that the ebb and the flow of life that changes spikes our perspectives,
Right.
and we might be willy-nilly changing our beliefs if we had that kind of access.
Yes.
Well, the subconscious knows that our greatest chance of staying alive and safe is to make our reality as reliable and predictable as possible, right? It just gives us the highest odds of surviving any
It does.
situation.
Yes.
And that's really key because, consciousness possessing entities like a human being,
Mm-hmm.
we are collapsing the quantum field into a discrete material reality in every moment of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how do we do that?
Right.
We do that with our beliefs. Our beliefs manifest the form of reality. I mean, just think about as a little baby,
Mm-hmm.
you were explicitly taught about light and dark, contrast. You were
Right.
explicitly taught about dimensions, height, width, length. Why? You had to have those beliefs to be able to assemble this material world, and then it just expanded from there. So our beliefs, they manifest the form of our reality, the function of our reality, and also the meaning and the value of our reality.
Hmm.
Now, here's the thing about beliefs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when when we first encounter it, and as we continue to hear it, that we are manifesting our reality, yet some of my reality sucks. So are you telling me that I'm manifesting this? That
Mm-hmm.
is BS, right? I'm not doing it. Well, here's the deal. Our beliefs are manifesting our version of reality. They are. But we didn't choose these beliefs.
Right.
We inherited them from well-intentioned, hopefully well-intentioned, our most important caregivers when we were a small child. In fact, by the
Mm-hmm.
time we were, nearing and out of grade school, we already had all the beliefs
We did.
there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't pick these. So we are not responsible for the beliefs we inherited. We are not responsible for the beliefs that are currently collapsing the quantum field and forming our material reality.
Right.
We're not to blame. What we do have, though, we have the opportunity, if we're so inclined,
Mm-hmm.
we get to grow them if we want, because, and I will say this is really key for us as human beings, scientifically speaking, as we collapse, we can't opt out of manifesting our own unique version of reality, right?
I
That is
agree.
not a choice we have. We didn't get to choose our beliefs. We also don't get to choose to not manifest all this. And we also don't get to choose to not use those inherited beliefs to manifest all that. There's nothing we get, but we do have a choice in how we manifest, because we can manifest our reality by default, which means we can let the beliefs we bring into this moment, the beliefs we inherited, we can let them do their job and just manifest our reality. We can also manifest our reality intentionally. And what that means is that, whoa, when I see the feedback around me like, yo, my reality sucks, I do not want to continue to manifest this by default. What we can do is we can look to science again. We can look to systems theory, right? You're a system. We're all systems.
Right.
We're a system of systems. Well, one of the tenets of systems theory is that when a system changes, it automatically changes its environment. It doesn't have that happens. You can't stop it from happening. So, what's the most effective way to change our environment? What's the most reliable way to change our environment? What's the most viable way to do that? Well, we can change the system that's manifesting the environment. And to do that, all we need to do is to grow our beliefs into alignment with those desires in these important parts of our life. And so that's what I wind up writing about, coaching people to do, and certainly speaking about as well.
Okay, so I want to back up a little bit. I want to go back to the idea of intergenerational beliefs, right? Things that are wound within us as we come into this life that are so deeply entrenched in who we are. Take for example some religions that are so bent on making sure that the belief structure is so interwoven from a very young age, in very young age, when babies, kids, everything. You talk about how we can, with systems theory and other ideas, choose to make a different choice. That when you look at like not the limbic system, the reptilian brain that's there to keep us safe, that is a huge challenge against that part of our brain that just where our beliefs are, right? That I want to do something different. I want to think something different. I want my beliefs to, I want to try something else on. I believe it's part, yes, I want to try that on. And I don't know. I'm curious about this. What's the progression that shows up? I know my own personal pathway to changing the narration about things in my head and my belief structure. And sometimes it takes a lot to unpack those things. And some of them have taken years. How do people make that choice? Some people seem like they're deeply entrenched for life. Other people, it's just really easy to try on a new hat and a new belief structure and move down that path. Why do we have such differing, like, where does the rubber meet the road, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, because at the end of the day, all this, hopefully inspiring and eye-opening, mind-expanding information, it needs to have a connection to our practice, right?
Right.
So I think part of it stems from what I would call one of the biggest misconceptions in the law of attraction genre. And that is that our feelings do not create our reality, right?
Right.
Our beliefs manifest our reality.
Correct.
And because our beliefs reside in our subconscious, we are not able to change them and grow them with the things that we normally use. We can't. Reading books doesn't
Right.
change our
Yeah.
doesn't
Within our
reach our
conscious mind
subconscious.
is what you're saying. You can't do
Right.
it within our
Hearing
conscious.
people
Yeah.
talk doesn't do it. Um,
Correct.
and you know what else doesn't do it? Manufactured emotions don't do it. So positive affirmations and positive thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, let me say this.
That's big law of
Positive,
attraction stuff.
well, positive affirmations and positive thinking, those are fantastic tools. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, they absolutely impact our conscious mind. They often and usually help us feel better in the moment, regardless, and that's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. They're also fantastic tools for getting us back on track in an area of my life. I'll give you a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm an avid runner. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks ago, I was in my garage getting ready to go out for a run, and it just hit me like, wow, all day long I've been feeling so much self-doubt. Like this isn't going away. And it's like like a gloom hanging over my head. It's very depressing. I was feeling some doubt about myself as a teacher and a coach and an author. And it had to do with my desires for where things should be regarding my newest book that was published in September,
Mm-hmm.
and my reality was still catching up to my desires
Mm-hmm.
in that part of my life. And here's the thing: the self-doubt was there, and we know what that feels like. It's a very painful
Yes.
feeling to experience. However, this is a part of my life where I'm not always hitting a home run out of the park in this part of my life, but I am usually confident and centered and reconciled and hungry and working and those sorts of things too, but certainly not experiencing self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So I was off track. And when I'm off track, for whatever the reason was, positive affirmations are great for getting us back on a track. Now, the key, of course, for them to be effective in this way, it's important to note that to get back on a track, we had to have been on that track to get back on it. And I'm a big advocate of what I would call believable positive affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
I knew immediately that I was off track in, feeling this self-doubt, but I don't like to go to Greg, you are the best author in the world. Greg, you are, and I'm not making fun of those kind of statements. I'm saying that my preference, because I'm going to state positive affirmations to get myself back on track. I'm just going to remind myself of the track that I'm on.
Yes.
So as soon as I was like, oh yes, of course, this is a situation for positive affirmations. I said, well, it is absolutely true that I'm working really hard. It's absolutely true that I'm learning and growing in the direction of success. It's absolutely true that I am experiencing other success in other important metrics.
Mm-hmm.
It's also true that I've had success in the past, and that it's a reasonable expectation for me that if I keep working hard, keep learning, that I will probably manifest success. It just hasn't happened yet. And those believable positive affirmations, well, they didn't change my reality. I didn't immediately get an email that said, "Hey, Greg, you just hit the New York Times bestseller list." It did change my perspective, however, because I was back on track, and thus it changed my reality.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, Karen. What do we do though when we're not trying to get back on track, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do we do when we need money, or however you want to quantify need, by the way, strong desire, when we need health, we need love, we need companionship, we need fulfillment in these important areas of our lives. And if positive affirmations aren't capable of reaching into our subconscious, and by the way, let me very quickly illustrate why they're not capable.
Sure.
Any situation where I'm going to use a positive affirmation, a traditional positive affirmation, is going to be a situation where I don't really feel that way. Otherwise, I
Right.
wouldn't be using the positive affirmation in the first place.
Yeah, and a lot of people call that toxic positivity, right? They feel like they're fake it till you make it or fake it till you become it, right? And there's a lot of people that are really against that.
But unfortunately, fortunately, however we want to say it, and I
Mm-hmm.
think probably most people who follow and adhere to the law of attraction
Mm-hmm.
would agree with this. Positive affirmations in that way, a traditional positive affirmation being recited to myself in a situation where I'm very unfulfilled or unhappy, it typically, yes, it's going to make me feel better. But you know what? It's like refilling a leaky raft at some
Right.
point, right? And long term, whether that's a week or a year, long term, I'm still unhappy about this. Now,
Right.
the unfortunate byproduct of that approach for most of us is we wind up blaming ourselves for that, right? What's actually happening though hasn't we don't need to blame ourselves or anyone for that matter. What is happening in that situation? What's happening is that I inherited beliefs that are incapable of manifesting a version of reality that I truly desire in this part of my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening. And uh, that's great news, by the way,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
because we really can change our beliefs. Here's the thing. The belief raising process, and I'll certainly, I will explain it. I want to explain it. I want to say that what I learned to do is to use feelings to reverse engineer my reality.
Hmm.
And there's a very special way to use feelings to do this that allows us to work in concert with our subconscious. With that, I'm just, calling back to that image that I cited a while back about guiding the small child across the street by holding their hand. Hey, that little kid, if you've ever led a little kid across a busy street that
Mm-hmm.
needs their hand held
Right.
because they don't understand how to do it,
Right.
that kid is still scared.
Yeah.
I mean, scared of, there's cars, all the things that were making me scared before are still there. They're still happening. The only difference is you're holding my hand and you're telling me it's okay and I believe you. Well, the belief raising process puts you in that position, that adult position, and puts your subconscious in that child's position. And it's really not rocket science. It's not difficult to do. It's, as you mentioned, it takes a level of commitment. Uh, I have found that with important things,
Mm-hmm.
invariably there comes a time where enough's enough. I've been unfulfilled too long. I pull out the belief raising process every single time. It always works.
Hmm. So I'm curious about two things that you just mentioned. One was the ability to get to our subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
We operate in this conscious reality, except for when we're asleep or meditating or various other ways, right? Um, to be able to change our belief patterns, we don't do that through the conscious mind. We do that through our subconscious mind. So I'm curious, what is your process for accessing the subconscious mind? And how has it been helpful, I guess, personally, and then from the people you work with?
Well, what I did, this is so fun
Mhm.
to coach clients through. In fact, Karen, I am starting a new coaching program
Hmm.
this January. And if anyone's listening to this after January 2024, I will
Mhm.
be running it a few times a year. So just check my
Okay.
website. But that working, coaching people through this belief raising process is at the heart of this coaching program. It is so much fun to watch other people do it. In fact, it's incredibly exciting to do it myself because here's why it works. It's very simple. I start by writing how I really feel about this. Okay, so the last time I used this belief raising process was on the statement, I am God. Somebody who was coaching me told me that, Greg, you're God, I'm God, we're all God. And what that person meant isn't that, we're the almighty creator of the universe that's in, religious texts, but that what's inside us, because yes, this is scientifically true. We are all energy. We're not made of energy. We are energy. And, it's funny. You mentioned that, Karen, that, except when we're asleep. Anyway, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But so we are energy, right? Well, so inside me, what's really me is energy. I call it light. I also call it love. It is the archipelago, right? And I'm just poking the surface, but I'm still the archipelago. So me, light, love, the real me. Well, our inner world projects our outer world. Our outer world reflects our inner world, right? When the outer world becomes unfulfilling, painful, displeasing, that means that there's something obstructing the light, the real me. And that shadow that's being cast by the obstruction, that's the painful reality. Well, that obstruction is a belief, an incapable belief. It may have been capable up to this point, but it's suddenly, because of how my life is unfolding and where I am and what I'm doing, suddenly it has become incapable, or maybe it's always been incapable, right? And we can think of examples of that. I mean, think about a little girl whose mother wants her to be thin and attractive for very positive reasons, right? This is not, an abuse situation. And we don't have to go into all those reasons, and the mother decides that she's not going to be explicit about this with her child because she doesn't want to, mess up her child's psyche. But she is going to give the child tough love to manage her, into the type of body that the mom believes she needs to be most successful, right? What inadvertently winds up happening, is that the child grows up where what she experiences and the belief she develops is that she needs to be thin to make mom happy. Okay. So I need to be thin to please someone who's super important to me. Now, as she goes out into her life, she's going to continue to have relationships. And in those relationships, whether, it's a significant other or, a coworker, best friend, what have you, she carries that belief into every relationship she has. And she may not be thinking about always being thin. What she might be thinking about, though, or always thinking about, is that I have to please people who are important to me so that they will be happy with me. And imagine now, of course, there are times where that's going to work to her advantage, going to please her boss, right? However, we all know that's going to cause a tremendous amount of trouble. And, so does she need to go back and find that belief she learned? I don't believe that. I don't practice that. If let's say this, woman, and I'm coaching her, she's now an adult, and she just says, look, I'm not satisfied with my romantic relationships, my love life. It's just not fulfilling. It's not what I desire. Well, I don't believe we need to go back and find the root cause of all that. What I ask her to do, and what I do, and what I did with the statement, I am God, sit down and write how you really feel about it. not how you should feel about it, not how you think you ought to feel about it, not how you positive talk your way into feeling about it sometimes. Not disparaging that. It's good to feel good, right? But an emotional vomit. How do I really feel about this? Meet yourself where you are. You don't need to know what the beliefs are. The feelings are what you need to get in touch with. The feelings that those beliefs manifest reality, and the reality elicits feelings. Okay. Feelings are a feedback loop from reality. So
Yeah.
my beliefs in this moment are manifesting my reality. Everything in this room, you, me, all the things that I'm aware of, all the ways that I'm feeling because of what I'm manifesting, that's a feedback loop about my beliefs. Okay. So the way we start the belief process is you sit down and say, how do you really feel? And I've got an emotional reference chart. It's modeled after Abraham Hicks' emotional guidance
Mm-hmm.
scale. I just
Mm-hmm.
made my own. And all you need to do, this is the exciting part, is once you do that initial writing, just find where you are on the chart. It's an ascending chart of emotional perspectives.
Right.
So that, I have two feelings. I'm using the terms emotions and feelings interchangeably, by the way.
Right.
But I have two feelings at each emotional set point or emotional perspective. And I look at what I wrote and I identify what emotional perspective best matches what I wrote about. And from there, it's very, very simple to take on the task of writing my way into the perspective of the next highest emotional perspective, which is not, and this is by design, it is not a quantum leap of positivity.
Right.
For example, I might be at grief and desolation.
Yep.
The next highest emotional perspective is anxiety and depression.
Yeah. You aren't going to leave to euphoria. Right.
Very small.
Yeah. Very
Small
small
enough.
incremental changes. Yeah.
You know what? I will say this. We know this, scientifically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that anyone has to do. There's no
Mm-hmm.
such thing as cause and effect on a quantum level. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing you have to do to manifest something. However, because we don't live in the quantum world, we live here, there are very often things that I do have to do to believe that I can manifest it. Okay. And this is what the belief raising process is about. In this part of my life that I'm working the belief raising process on, I'm going to start out. I mean, it might not be at the bottom, but it's not positive emotions. I don't
Mm-hmm.
work the belief raising process when my reality is eliciting positive
Right.
feedback. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Agreed.
going to be something that is negative, painful, whatnot. Um, that's where my beliefs really are in this area. I didn't make that happen. I'm not responsible for that. What I can do though is act as a parent and take my subconscious by the hand and say, let's walk to the next emotional perspective. It is so close to the previous one that my subconscious goes right along with it.
Mm.
And the cool thing is, even though the improvement is slight enough that my subconscious goes right along with it, it's also actually a little more empowering, a little more solution oriented, a little more focused toward success, a little more, right? And in the process of writing my way into that new emotional perspective, which I do simply by asking myself, my writing prompts, what I teach people to do is
Mm-hmm.
to ask themselves, what would my reality in this part of my life look like? And
Mm-hmm.
how would it work for me to feel anxious about it instead of afraid? It's a simple shift. It's not a grand leap at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take us right where we want to go. It's a small step that the subconscious is capable of taking with us because it's believable. The subconscious doesn't care that it's slightly improving, but during the process of writing, what happens is I and this is what I teach people to do in my books and my coaching. I allow the quantum field or the one consciousness to write me an individualized curriculum, specifically tailored to my learning and growth. It turns the belief raising process, which is what I call intentionally manifesting one's life, growing our beliefs by working with our subconscious. It is so exciting because even that small step from, say, grief to anxiety, it's not grand, but it's real. It's easy to get to. It's easy for me to see and understand, which, by the way, is the definition of manifest, to see and understand. And once I'm there at that new emotional perspective, I am manifesting a different version of reality in this part of my life. I really can see and understand it in my material manifestation because my beliefs have grown just a little bit. It takes about a month usually for me to work my way, at most, it takes about a month for me to work my way all the way up to the top of the emotional reference chart, which is the emotional perspective of love and ecstasy.
So for somebody that let's talk about the gal, the example that you gave. She's presenting with emotions that maybe don't match the beliefs, right? So she's dealing with a lot of perfectionism at work, and she's feeling a lot of pressure to be a good mom, or, whatever it may be. Her feelings don't align with the beliefs that are stored deep within our subconscious. So she's working through these emotions. There's some level of commitment that must have to happen in order to notch her way up this scale, the Abraham Hicks, the emotional reference scale. But I'm curious how, at what point is there this reflection where you can say, oh, because the subconscious is just, it's like a data input. It's like data in, data out. There's no, it's just is what it is. So I'm curious how the work in identifying those emotions aligns with the beliefs that are deeply held within our subconscious, and where does the cross point come where you're like, oh, I'm trying on something different now.
Yeah, I would actually simplify. I'd give the simplest answer possible. For me, when life is painful, there are two options. One is I can get back on track because I'm off track. And to do that, I'm going to use believable affirmations and give my best effort, to feel my feelings, process them, learn from them, and let those feelings guide my believable positive affirmations, get myself back on track and give my best effort. If my life is painful, if my reality is painful, and it's not I need to get back on track situation, but it's you know what? This has been frustrating for too long. Whatever that means to me, right? Well, I need to be more intentional about how I manifest it. So I am going to write down how I really feel about the situation. I'm not going to go in and try to unpack and find out how the belief developed and what the belief is and name it. If someone, that is not important to me
right,
and the people I work with. What I am going to do though is here's this falls back to it's proven true. The most successful people I've had the privilege of working with, there's a common thread, and it continues to inspire me as well. And that is a willingness to allow the reality that we manifest to inform us rather than define us. And that's not hard to do. It's challenging when we really, really care about our reality. That's when it becomes when the challenge grows. However, it's not hard to do, to use our reality to inform us rather than define us. We simply pay attention to our feelings. As long as I process my feelings, I don't stuff them, I don't put them in a closet, I don't try to hide them, I don't, tamp them down. That doesn't work, by the way. And anybody, and I've done it many times, and I'm sure I'll do it in the future because feelings are painful sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
However, as long as I process my feelings, I feel them and I physically process them, they teach me. That's how the curriculum is delivered in large part by, the one consciousness, reality.
Right.
It's feeding me back. It's saying, oh man, this stinks. Now, let's say that my father dies, tomorrow. Well, that's going to be the feeling feedback is going to be horrific, painful. That feeling feedback is still telling me the same thing that any other feeling feedback is telling me. It's saying, Greg, the beliefs you're carrying into this moment are not capable of manifesting a version of reality that you truly desire. Now, in this instance, there's some aspect of too bad to it, right? Yes, my beliefs are incapable of manifesting a version of reality where my father doesn't die. My beliefs are not capable of that. So the feedback is very accurate, okay? Obviously, there are ways that feedback can still be very helpful to me. It can inform how I, process and move forward with grief and those sorts of things. Incredibly helpful, right? That's not a situation, however, where I'm going to go necessarily work my belief raising process, because I'm not interested in learning how to manifest a reality where no one ever dies. I have no idea how that would be done. I'm not motivated to do that. If Karen, if you're ever able to do that, I'd love to know how, but that's not my interest. My interest is in parts of my life where more is possible, where I know more, more success, more fulfillment, more intimacy, more love, more joy. Those are the experiences that I'm interested in going in and working my belief raising process on. And as long as I continue to feel and process my feelings and I allow them to inform me, hey, so every time life gets painful, that's always a feedback loop. Not that I'm doing something wrong, but that, I'm bringing, I'm either off track or I'm carrying some beliefs in here that are incapable. Now, I don't know about you, Karen, but I hope to encounter that kind of pain of incapable beliefs. I hope I encounter that forever, because it means that I'm growing, evolving, changing, that, as I experience more success in these important areas of my life, I see that more is possible. So this is not bad news when we encounter this kind of pain, this kind of feedback. It's good news. It means, hey, I know that more is possible here. I know that more is possible for me. And you know what? I'm not interested in manifesting this by default anymore.
Yeah. I'm
And
curious. Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
I'm curious about the feelings part, because that takes a great level of self-awareness on people's part to feel and then understand what you're feeling to be able to move to another level. I know from my own personal experience, it is important to sit in the feelings and then reflect what the feelings are informing for you. But that takes an incredible amount of self-awareness if you are looking to manifest this life that you desire. It is really easy to stuff, to push away, to ignore, to not deal with, and continue to try to live that life that you desire. So I'd love to hear from you. It's like, I feel like I'm sitting in this sludgy soup some days when those feelings come, whether it's grief or frustration or sadness or the gamut, right? I mean, whatever it is that I'm moving through to push to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
How do you coach people to feel the feeling and then continue moving through that?
Yeah, I've got some pretty specific techniques in my books. My latest book has a number of techniques that are great for this.
Mm-hmm.
In my new coaching program, each week we do a quantum experiment, and two of the quantum experiments are explicitly tied to strategies and techniques that employ your feelings into this feedback role.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, one of the questions that we can ask ourselves when we're
Mm-hmm.
feeling pain, whether you mentioned grief. So I'm feeling
Right.
grief, you
Mm-hmm.
know, usually I'm just going to say this, it's the holiday season whenever
Mm-hmm.
you're listening to this, but I'm sure people can relate.
Yeah.
Um, I have 4 sons. They're all adults.
Mm-hmm.
I love being a father. It is such a fulfilling experience for me, so rewarding, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's very important to me to manifest that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
well, part and parcel to that, during the holiday season, I was sharing with my wife last night that I had one of my usually 2 or 3, maybe 4 bawling sessions where I just busted out crying. I was
Mm-hmm.
watching a commercial. It was a McDonald's commercial about the
Mm-hmm.
holidays, and I busted out crying because I was awash in the memory, the realization, the remembering that my days of being with a small child at Christmas are done. Well, grief is baked into life. So those feelings come over me, and I'm not real comfortable about crying in front of people, and to
Mm-hmm.
be completely honest. So I've learned to usually go somewhere and just let it out, right? Just let it, because it'll run its course. And how do I learn from that? I say, well, I'm feeling grief. I process, I feel the grief. Um, and I ask myself, um, what what might this feeling be telling me about myself? And
Mm-hmm.
if it's uncomfortable and painful, I can add, what is it telling me about myself that I'm afraid is true, but I don't want it to be? You know,
Mm.
now that kind of question, not intellectualizing the feeling, okay,
Okay.
not
Right.
trying to,
Yes. That's very
because I think we can all
important.
relate to,
Yes. That's
like,
very
hey,
important.
okay, I've got this. I'm going to do a checkbox. I'm going to put this feeling up on the shelf. Done with that. Okay, everything's nice and tidy. Uh, feelings are, they're messy, they're fluid, those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a leading question. If we're interested, of course, the majority of my feelings, which, by the way, there's a constant flow of information from our
Yes.
reality in the form of feelings. I mean, think about feelings are like the mercury in an old fashioned thermometer,
Yes. Uh-huh.
and there's a mindset shift. And when you talk about self-awareness and willingness, what I would say is, I know for a fact that feelings do not manifest my reality.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get in touch with how I really feel about something in my belief raising process,
Mm-hmm.
and if I process my feelings by allowing myself to really feel them, I'm not manifesting more of the same reality. I'm not
Right.
making those feelings real. I'm not creating worse things, because feelings don't manifest reality.
Right.
Uh, they are painful, though. So, even the most enlightened frame of mind, I don't necessarily enjoy processing some of those feelings. Um, but I don't have to be worried about feeling them. And what I would say is this: if I'm, and just talking about the people that I work with, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's in my Facebook group, because a lot of people will read my books and they'll come
Mm-hmm.
to my Facebook group or in my newsletter, and I love to interact with people, so I don't have to coach you explicitly
Right.
to have, and when when folks are feeling
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, those unpleasant feelings, okay, well, how do I get in touch? Well, there's nothing we will ever encounter in any writing we do, in any processing we do. There's nothing we'll encounter that's not already in there. And furthermore, here's what I would say, and this is what I see again and again. This is my life, and this is I see in the lives of people that I work with, Facebook group, coaching, what have you, to adopt and move into an intentional manifesting lifestyle. Okay. At its heart, that's a lifestyle of formative assessment. Now, I know you have a background, Karen, in education.
Yes.
And formative assessment is education speak, right?
It is.
So for people who are not educators, and I have a 28-year storied history almost, not to brag, but just to say a very wonderful career in education. I know a tremendous amount about how to teach, how people learn, how to facilitate that. I forgot where I was going with this.
We're going to formative assessments.
Oh yeah. Thank you. I get, you know what?
It's okay.
Education speak, like
I'm with you.
You know what? It glazes me over. It reminds me of the bureaucracies of education. But so this is a good one for people who aren't in education. There are two primary types of assessment. One, there's a summative assessment, and that's when, okay, Karen, we're done with chapter 3. Here's your test. However you do on this test, that's it. That's how you do. That's your grade. That's your final, a summative assessment gives you your final grade. That's it. You're done. You move on. A formative assessment, which is the lifestyle of intentional manifesting. A formative assessment only has one purpose, and that is to inform the teacher and the learner about where more learning is needed. So there's no pressure. If you bomb a formative assessment, all you're doing is letting you and the teacher know, oh, I need a lot more instruction. Who cares? If you ace it, oh, good for you. You don't need any. But it was going to be fine if you needed more instruction. Who cares? That's why we're here, right? Well, that's life. Every single thing that happens in our life, every single thing we manifest, every experience, every moment is a moment of formative assessment. We're constantly being given feedback. That mercury reading in the old-fashioned thermometer, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Pull it out. Well, when the feedback is painful, gosh, that mercury is spiking up the thermometer, right? It's 103, whatever. But here's the thing. When I see that I've got a fever on an old-fashioned thermometer, I don't fix the fever by fixing the thermometer. The feelings are the mercury in there. So typically, oh my gosh, the feedback from our reality is painful. I don't like it. I got to change the feelings. Right? Well, why wouldn't we feel that way? Why wouldn't we think that's how to solve it? Unfortunately, it's not how to solve it. And also, unfortunately, when we don't have a formative lifestyle, when we're not using our feelings as feedback, we get stuck in constantly trying to create the feelings we want, because we know the feelings that will be associated with the version of reality we really desire. And what we miss when we're stuck in that loop is that we can grow beliefs that will elicit those kinds of feelings. We just have to meet our beliefs where they are now and baby step them along. The beautiful thing is, so you move to a formative lifestyle, you start to adhere to reality and feelings as feedback. The changes, the curriculum that it gives you access to, meaning what can I do? How can I engage differently with reality, and how can I conduct myself differently? That's what I mean by curriculum. Yeah. it's so empowering. It's so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And the changes are real and immediate.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yes.
We may not get where we ultimately want to go immediately, but it is so exciting to see and understand changes immediately.
You have 9 books. They're all easily digestible. If somebody's dropping into this conversation and has not heard of you, but has heard you've written 9 books, where's the best place to start?
I love my new book. It's called A Handbook for Those Already Born: How to Manifest Better Versions of Reality. In fact, if you're watching it, that's what it looks like.
There it is.
So I definitely would recommend starting there. That's a pretty accessible entry point. My website is manifestthebigstuff.com. You find your way to my Facebook group where, and that's a great place to inhabit, because not only is that a place where you can hear about things that I'm doing, but also I share exclusive content with that Facebook group. So you're going to see things that nobody else will.
So I always like to kind of wrap up with what is your unique parting wisdom for our audience? And we'll end there.
Foundationally speaking, the idea that reality can inform me rather than define me, the reality and the feedback that it gives me in the form of feelings, that can inform rather than define me. I'm gonna dig a little deeper into that as a grounded guidance takeaway. Success, because we are all different perspectives of the same thing. Understand that on a tangible, visceral, literal level, your success is my success, and my success is your success. So it behooves me and anybody who would like to follow suit. Not only is it in my best interests to, within my scope, obviously the scope of our relationship and our connection and that sort of thing, to help you be as successful as possible. It is in my best interest. So even looking at it selfishly, shared success is literally the best success. And so in your practices and in your daily life, I would encourage people to take that as far as you're willing to, not only being a valuable, helpful, important part of other people's lives, neighbors, family members, community members, that sort of thing, but also actively and consciously hold people in, we could say, hold them in your heart, hold them in that inner light, that love of what you really are. Bathe them in it, soak them in it. Be intentional about that. Take advantage of every opportunity you have to help other people be successful and make yourself more successful in the process, literally.
What a beautiful message. Thank you so much, Greg.
Hey, thank you. This was, this conversation really charged me up. I'm going to go out and run a marathon.
Thank you for joining us today on the Grounded Guidance podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving a review. Your feedback helps us reach more curious minds like yours. Until next time, stay grounded, stay guided, and keep stretching your edges to think differently. Take care, my friends.